Welcome, RHS families, to Curriculum Night 2020. My name is Nick Reed, and I am your kids' U.S. history teacher this semester. So I'm going to share my screen, and we will get started. This is obviously very commonplace for your son or daughters on Tuesdays and Fridays. Do a lot of screen sharing. All right. So a little bit about me. First and foremost, I'm an RHS kid, an RCS kid. I grew up in the community. I went to Hamlin Elementary, Ruther Middle School, and then graduated from Rochester High in 2011. From there, I went to Oakland University, studied history and social studies. I also started working as a coach in RCS, and then was hired full-time as a teacher in 2019. Obviously, those are the professional credentials, some of the schooling stuff. But if I'm here, if I'm a parent, I want to see who the individual who's teaching my kid really is. So a little bit about me and my family. Very, very close with my family. Again, everyone very close to the community. In Rochester, you can see on the top left, sitting there at Lagniappe at the lighting ceremony downtown. My mom, my dad, my sister, and my grandparents I'm super close with. In the middle is my mother, and then my sister Casey, who's actually a senior at Rochester High School, which is crazy for me. And then the top right, some of my work colleagues, some of the people who actually taught me as a student at Rochester High, who are now my colleagues, which is pretty weird, but it's pretty great to be around the people that inspired you to teach in the first place. Some of the interests and hobbies that I have. I love traveling. It's my dad and I in Colorado. We went to Red Rocks to see a show, hiked into the amphitheater. It was pretty great. On the right side, there's my dog Lila, who accompanied me on a cross-country trip not too long ago, which is pretty great. And then in the middle, a picture of some of my players from some teams in the past. Coach a little bit of everything. But I do tell students and families that I am a teacher first before a coach. I love coaching. It's a huge part of my life. But as a professional, I'm a teacher first, and I'm here to teach your son or daughter U.S. history this semester. Probably my favorite class to teach, so I'm very excited to do that. All right, communication. Best way to communicate with me is through email, nreed@rochester.k12.mi.us. Our Zoom meetings will be Tuesdays and Fridays from 12:30 to 2. I send out email confirmations 15 minutes before the meeting. It's on Google Classroom. It's everywhere. So your son or daughter should be available for that hour and a half. It's our 6-hour time slot on Tuesdays and Fridays, 12:30 to 2 p.m. Our curriculum for U.S. history. I could go into all the state standards, but you guys can look that up if you want to check that out. It's all on Google Classroom. Email me if you want to get that stuff. But we all follow the Michigan model that all RCS staff and social studies department have been trained to do. So any of that curriculum stuff is on Google Classroom. We'll take a standard, we align learning activities to those standards, and then find activities in which your students engage with that information to dictate whether or not they have learned that certain state standard. So all that stuff's in Google Classroom if you want to check it out. Our unit breakdown, again, this is probably my favorite class to teach, especially first semester's information going from the Civil War really until the 1940s, 50s, depending on where we get. Start with the foundations. What do you remember from 8th grade U.S. history? We get into the Gilded Age, the Progressive Era, imperialism, World War I, the Roaring '20s, which is probably students' favorite unit year in and year out, and the Great Depression and the New Deal is kind of our unit breakdown for first semester. Our expectations for remote learning. I have an attendance policy that I know teachers have kind of different ways to do it. Obviously, we know that our cameras need to be on when we jump onto our Zooms. Excuse me. Just so we can know that your son or daughter is actually there and it's not just their name and somebody else on the Zoom. So I like to have students have their camera on in the waiting room. I admit students one by one to welcome them personally. Say, hey, how are you doing, John? Hey, Mr. Reed, good to see you. Just like we would in a regular setting where we're standing outside the classroom, greeting kids and things of that nature. So that's kind of the attendance policy. If your son or daughter is not in attendance for that day, I will send an email home and we'll have to get contact with you all as parents or the student just to make sure everything's okay and verify that that student is excused or not. Big expectation is respect for yourself and your classmates. There's going to be a lot of discussions in this class, a lot of breakout rooms that we'll use with different pieces of digital technology. The big thing that I tell kids is that you don't have to agree with opinions, but you do have to respect opinions and respect values. What that's going to do is help us have awesome discussions, help us argue. I think that's such an awesome life skill. You don't always have to agree with somebody, but respecting opinions and valuing opinions is going to go a long way. So we talk a lot about that, especially in U.S. history, because there's so many opportunities to talk and discuss and debate and argue, and we'll be doing a lot of that this semester. And then finally, following proper attire, virtual etiquette. It's all in the RCS handbook if you want to check that out. In closing, obviously, this is a learning experience for everyone this year. It's unprecedented. We're going to be using a lot of different pieces of technology. I've told your kids that there will be stuff that I mess up. I'm going to try to use some sort of digital platform and it's not going to work, or somebody will get logged out. Maybe their Wi-Fi crashes. It's okay. Have patience. We'll all get through this together. Communicate if those things do happen to you at home. If your kid has a Wi-Fi breakdown or there's something going on at home, shoot me an email. We'll make sure that nobody falls behind. Just have patience, because again, we're going to be using a lot of different pieces of technology, and to make that experience the best we can possibly make it for your son or daughter in U.S. history. So the last thing I'll say is a promise that I give to your kids, and I want to give to you as well. I promise to do everything I can possibly do to make this an awesome experience for your son or daughter. My colleagues around me have been working so hard to prepare for this year. I've never seen a group of people work as hard as the teachers at RCS have worked to prepare for your students this year. So we're very excited to kind of unleash what we have and take risks and try new things and get better throughout the semester. I'm sure things will run smoother and smoother and smoother as we go along. But until then, please have patience. Communicate with anything with me via email, and we're very, very excited to have you in class this year. I'm so excited to teach U.S. history again. So anything you need, please reach out. Thank you for coming, and enjoy the rest of your night. Appreciate it.